have a very special guest who is going to educate us on alcoholism and poverty. More closely, she's going to try and persuade us to see her point of view, that more funding is needed for public rehab centers in America. Bonnie, it's so good to have you here this morning.
I'm glad to be here, Caitlin.
So let's not waste any time. I have a couple of quick questions to ask you, if that's okay. Let's start with a simple question. Why are you so passionate about this subject? And by that, I mean, is there a personal connection to this project?
In some aspect, yes, there is a personal connection. However, that is only a small portion of my passion for the project.
What is your personal connection?
I'm the child of an alcoholic who has been to 2 separate rehabs, and neither of them have helped him.
Now, you've touched upon this in your research a few times. Why don't you believe it worked?
Because the alcoholic in question has to want the help.
And in your case, did the alcoholic want the help?
No, he didn't, and now not only is he paying the consequences, but so are his children.
So, is that the driving factor behind your passion for this project?
Is what the driving factor? My father not wanting to take the help he was offered not once, but twice?
Yes. Is that what's making you fight for more funding for alcohol rehab centers?
No. The driving factor is that he was given 2 chances when there are people who can't afford it, not being given a chance because they want the help, but they can't afford to get said help. So why does he get to have 2 chances because he can afford it when they can't and they need the help? They can get better because they want it.
So I'm sure many of our viewers know what alcoholism is, but for those who may not know, can you explain to them?
Alcoholism, by definition, is an addiction to the consumption of alcoholic liquor or the mental illness and the compulsivity resulting from dependency.
Now, I've read more than once that alcoholism is genetic. Is that true?
People are predisposed, and about 40 to 60% of that predisposition is genetic.
Now, what's most interesting about this project is that you're focusing on the poorer populations.
While they are the main cause for my want of more funding, it won't help just them. It will be most beneficial to them, but it will help people in rehab centers across America.
Okay, can you talk about the numbers for a moment?
Of course. So approximately 1.5 million people are alcoholics, while in 2015, 15.1 million reported having an alcohol abuse disorder. 80% of upper-class citizens report drinking alcohol as compared to 50% of lower-class citizens. However, the lower class is more likely to abuse alcohol than those in a higher economic class. Furthermore, 38% of our homeless population abuses alcohol. And alcohol abuse is more prevalent in those living in lower economically impacted areas. In 2011, 37.3% of those struggling with an addiction to alcohol stated that they couldn't get help based on the fact that they could not afford it.
Okay, so now that you've stated why we need more funding, can you tell us what the funding will help with exactly?
So a lot of the funding will go towards helping people afford rehab. Private rehab centers cost about $20,000 for a 30-day program, and anywhere from $12,000 to $60,000 for inpatient programs lasting 60 to 90 days. For a 3-month outpatient program, it's about $5,000. While there are state-funded and free rehab centers, they only offer like the lowest level care, so they're not getting the help that they need. Unfortunately, that is all a lot of people can afford, and there's often a wait list. So regardless of whether or not they want the help and they can get it, they're wait listed. They have to wait to see if they can get in. So a lot of the extra funding will go towards state-funded and free rehab centers. It'll open more beds. They can hire more staff. By hiring more staff, they can add more therapy time, individual, group, family time. They can update all of their equipment. They can update their techniques in detox and helping people just get to a better mental state to be able to begin their road to recovery.
Okay, what else will this funding go towards?
It will allow for more programs within the rehab centers. So many rehab centers allow family therapy, but we can expand on those programs. we can hire more counselors. We can do cross therapy, so they can work with one counselor. If they don't like it, they can move to another rather than just completely stop. By having family therapy, it makes an open and safe environment for, you know, the children or the parents or the spouse of the alcoholic to speak freely about how the behavior is affecting them. And we can also add education programs. So if we educate, we are more likely to kind of not completely stop what is happening with alcoholism, but we can reduce the numbers if we show them, you know, this is what alcohol is. It is a dependency. You can get through life without it. We can show them the warning signs. They'll know how to help others, you know, let that be an intervention or saying, hey, you need professional help. I want to be there to help you, but right now that's not going to work. And it'll also teach them about enabling, because a lot of family members unfortunately tend to enable their family member who is struggling with addiction, because sometimes it's easier than listening to them argue, and sometimes, you know, we're just so used to seeing them in that state that they get into a different state and we're like, okay, well, if you drink, it'll make you feel better. But that's enabling, and that's not how we're going to, you know, end this epidemic in our country.
Okay, what about when they leave rehab and go home?
So many who return home from rehab reported that they did not feel they were well prepared. With funding, we can have people who go out. They help them find 12-step programs, not only for the alcoholic but for the family. There's great things. There's AA, there's Al-Anon. But sometimes it's difficult to find the one that's right for you. So we have people who can kind of help take your preferences and put them into, you know, like a database to find a program that's going to match you. It will also allow people to keep up with their rehab center if they know they have the constant support of these people behind them. It will be easier for them to follow the road to recovery, which is a lifelong road. They will always be an alcoholic. And that's unfortunate, but with the proper help that they can get, if we fund rehab centers, it will be possible to keep them on that road to recovery, because about 90% will relapse within 4 years after going into rehab. But we can lower that number dramatically if we do, you know, dedicate more time and funding and hire more people. So it's a viable option if we find the right people and the right sources of funding, and it's, you know, it's helping our economy. We're putting more workers out there. We're returning people from a state where they, you know, maybe couldn't work to a state where they can hold a job, and overall it'll be better for our economy and our healthcare system.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. But Bonnie, thank you so much for educating us on rehab centers.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll see you next time on Live with Caitlin.